Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for blasting my subwoofers in my own parking spot during non-quiet hours at my apartment complex? Posting from a throwaway for whatever reason, just don't want this to blend into my other subs. So basically, my car is my life. I have a tuned Subaru Impreza WRX STI, still one of the most unfortunate badging names for a car. That is my hobby. My transportation, my life. I'm more comfortable behind the wheel than I am in my own bed. It's not quite as fast as I want, but it looks amazing, and the sound system is seriously as good as it can be. I live in a large apartment complex in Tucson. I'm guessing probably 100 units or so, not sure. Anyways, the complex is really cool because a lot of places won't let you work on your car. Well, I can pay an extra premium every month to get a mechanic spot under shade. It's an extra $2 a month, but so worth it. When I work on my car, I blast my system. It helps me think and focus. Also important to note, our complex has quiet hours between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. I follow these to the letter, but I do need to work on my car, so some Saturdays and Sundays, I crank shit from 8:01 a.m. to 9:59 p.m. I'm not breaking any rules at all. I moved in January, and this Sunday was apparently a major problem. I had 2 people ask me to turn it down. I totally did, but one came back and said it's not the volume, it's the bass. And I can turn the bass down. I said I would try, but I guess that wasn't good enough because he came down a 3rd time. Finally, I told him I paid for the spot, I wasn't breaking any rules, I'd only be out there until 10 p.m. He said his kids had to go to bed at 8:30, and the bass from my car was rattling his walls. I told him I'd done my best to accommodate him, but I was done. He told me he'd call the police, who never showed, and talk to management. I just stopped responding to him and cranked my system to drown out his barking. I worked on my car until 9:59 when I turned my system off. I got an email from my apartment manager asking if she could come by. She's really cool, and I want to help her, but I feel like I'm paying extra for the mechanic spot. I'm not breaking any rules, and that guy had no right to talk to me like that. She said she managed a nice place and she's gotten complaint after complaint about my car. I told her I was sorry, but I was still well within my rights and not breaking any rules. She asked me to please consider for her sake using headphones or earbuds if music is that important to me. I said I'd try. I worked on my car all night last night and used earbuds, and it just wasn't the same. I spent thousands of dollars and so much time to tune my system perfectly, and to not use it when I want sucks. I want to help her out, but am I even being an asshole in the first place? Update. I guess since everyone thought I was the asshole, you'll be happy to know my WRX got keyed. I'm so fucking pissed, because it wasn't even a month ago I drove it down to Cali to get it repainted, and I came out this morning and it has key marks all up and down the side, some even down to the metal. I stopped playing bass in my mechanic spots so no one had any right or reason to do this. This isn't a touch-up job either. This will have to be taken to metal and re-primed for it to look right. And I don't know about insurance since they don't value a 2001 WRX STI the same I do. This sucks so bad. Personally, I think that if you put too much bass into your sound system, it ruins the song, because it just sounds like a bunch of gurgled nonsense, and plus it causes early onset tinnitus and damages your hearing extremely quickly. And if your neighbors are able to have their walls rattled by your bass from what I assume to be across the parking lot, yeah dude, you should really be tuning your bass down. Also, just as a side note, if you're trying to make your car faster, adding hundreds of pounds worth of stereo equipment isn't going to do that. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but you kind of deserve to have your car keyed if this is how you were talking to your neighbors who just wanted his kids to go to bed, but they couldn't because your subsystem was rattling his fucking walls, and your response was to turn it up to drown out his barking. I mean this in the kindest way. Go fuck yourself. I used to work on and tune an old M54 and an E46, so this is an area that I'm all too familiar with. Hell, back in 2024, I even learned how to do automotive paint so I could repair some damage that was done to my car. I've literally done the whole shebang of sanding something down using Bondo and gap filler to make sure that it's an even surface, making sure that it has primer, then the coat, and the clear coat, blending the clear coat in. Like, I've done all of that and even brought down orange peel in the paint to make it a perfectly smooth 3000 grit. So I say this who knows their way around both the cosmetic world of cars and additionally the engine bay. And as someone who used to do car repairs in 20-degree weather, Fahrenheit, I have definitely hurt myself quite a few times when smacking my hands against cold metal. I say this because I've also done work on my car outside in the elements. And when I say this, I mean this with my full chest. Go fuck yourself. You are part of the reason why car culture is seen as being a pest and a blight to the civilized world. Technically, I'm not doing anything wrong. I start up at 8:01 and I stop at 9:59. By the way, there's a huge difference between having quiet hours and breaching your local noise ordinance, because I'm pretty sure that vibrating the walls of an apartment complex is definitely in violation of noise ordinance. And I really hope that as time went on, you just got L after L after L, because this is bullshit, dude. Cross-posted from r/relationship advice. My 28 male, fiance 26 female, told me that my parents are saying incredibly racist things to her when I'm not around because they don't want black grandchildren. Hello everyone, I'm writing this to figure out what to do or who to believe in this situation. Let me start out by saying that I'm white and my lovely fiance is a black woman. We have an amazing relationship and I don't want any other woman in my life. She is also the only black woman I've ever dated. My parents have always been supportive of me, and I have an incredibly strong family relationship with them and my siblings. Or, at least I thought. When I was growing up in the Midwest, there weren't really black people around, and the topic of racism never came up really. But I never suspected that my lovely, outgoing, and polite parents would be racist, because they even donated money to an orphanage in Africa for like 20 years now through their church. My parents met my fiance a year ago, but did not take it too seriously because I had a lot of girlfriends in the past, and they probably just thought it was another girlfriend. Well, last weekend I announced to them that my girlfriend was now my fiance on a family Zoom meeting. My parents looked a little surprised because I did not discuss it with them before, but were ultimately congratulating me. We wanted to have a dinner with them in person to sort of let them get to know their future daughter-in-law, and everything blew up. My mom forgot something for the dinner and my dad and I went to the store to get it. My fiance texted me about 10 minutes in asking me to come back right away because she needed me and my dad, and I turned around. When I got back, she was sitting in my car. I still had the keys, and she was crying, asking me to take her to our house. Of course, I drove her home and told my parents I was sorry, and my fiance told me what my mom had said to her. Essentially, my fiance told me that my mom said she was not supportive of us because she didn't want black grandchildren. A number of other things that she was surprised my fiance married up. Even though I think my fiance is better looking than me, but I am a bit more successful financially. Well, I confronted my mom and asked what she said, and my mom said that she said nothing even close to that, and that the only thing she said was that she was curious what country my wife was ethnically from, and that my fiance mistook it. Well, I asked my fiance more probing questions, but she's adamant that my mom explicitly said these things. I've never known either of them to be liars, but the two people I trust most in this world are giving me completely conflicting stories. I want to side with my wife, but what if she's having a mental episode or something? Is it a possibility that no one is lying here? I need some fucking help. Edit. It could also be a mental episode with my mom, maybe, but neither have mental issues, but they can pop up in people's 20s, like my uncle. So I just said my fiance might have had a mental episode. Sorry for the confusion. Well, as it turns out, This post was clicked by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is user ThrowRA confused guy posted to r/relationship advice March 17th, 2021. Now that we have the accreditation out of the way and we have the first bit read, let's see some relevant comments. Yeah, it turns out that this was actually someone who posted the first part of a best of, and there's a whole best of attached to it. So that's what we're doing. I had no idea until I checked the comments on this one. Insomniac Act comments, I guess ask yourself who stands to gain anything by lying. Does your fiancé have anything to gain by making this up? Or does your mother have something to gain by denying it ever happened? Because personally, I'm inclined to believe your fiancé. I don't see what she could possibly gain from this, whereas your mom has every reason to say it didn't happen. User Here Is Gone responds, I'm a white guy from the deep south. This isn't even a mystery to me. Your wife is not making up anything. Trust her. The ethnicity dodge is old hat, and she's blaming your fiancé for her own racism by saying she was misunderstood. Midwesterners I personally know have a really skewed view of what racism is, and often are not aware of how racist they are exactly because they do not get to witness it on a regular basis or be embarrassed by it on a regular basis. No offense intended, donating to a church for African, Haitian, or Latin missions is the most racist, colonialist, self-aggrandizing thing ever, by the way. It's a disgusting racist banner wave. My parents' church has missions to Honduras and an indoor basketball court for white kids, but won't do a damn thing for the poor blacks in one of the poorest counties in the USA. Anyway, apologies for coming across strongly, but please reinvest in your fiancé by being empathetic to her and put down a hard line now that your mother's comments were unacceptable. Best of luck to you. Honestly, thank God this commenter got to the, well, my parents donate to African orphanages through their church, because I was definitely going to address the fact that that's definitely the easiest way to be like, I can't be racist. I donate to black orphanages through my church. Anyways, update 4 days later. Hey everyone, link to the original. Thank you for those of you who reached out with good suggestions and such. I really took everyone's advice on this. However, I really didn't think it was fair the way I was characterized in the comments, because I love my fiancé and I believe her, but I also love my mom and had no reason to doubt her either. It's really hard to doubt your parents when they've always been good to you your entire life until this incident. Anyways, I was basically completely wrong about this whole situation. I decided to call my sisters, I told them it was an emergency, and we hopped on Zoom together. Well, I explained the crazy story to them, and one of them just let out a laugh, but tried to hold it back. Then I went quiet, and we had a few seconds of awkwardness until she let out a, "Are you really asking this?" Then she told me, "Of course Mom is racist." And my sisters agreed with her. Then they led me on a 30-minute rant about how Mom would tell them not to marry outside their race, especially black people, because these marriages won't work out and no decent man would want you after. Apparently, she told them this regularly, and they all married white people anyways. The thing is that I'm 9 years younger than the youngest of them, so I guess I was never included in these talks. She never once mentioned to me about race and who I should or shouldn't date. I don't know why I never received these messages. Moreover, I guess I'm just blind because they also told me I was the favorite child because I was the only boy. I assumed my parents paid for everyone's first car in college, but I guess it was just me. They were really mad at me for what I put my fiancé through and not realizing things, but I feel like that's unfair because how am I supposed to know they were mistreated compared to me if I was just a child when they were in college? I guess the close relationship I thought I had was just an illusion. I told my fiancé that I was with her until I die, and I don't care if they all cut me off, and that I'm siding with her always. I should have done this from the beginning, since she's really not the kind of person to call people racist, and I never knew her to be super political. After talking with my sisters, I hung up almost crying, which I normally don't do. But I went and told my fiancé everything I had learned, and we just held each other for a while. She's not really mad at me, but just sad about the whole situation, and we talked a lot about whether to cut my parents out completely or not. I know for sure we will not let them around our future children. Also, my sisters called me back and told me they're sorry they were so harsh to me, but I really hope I don't lose all my family from this. I also found out my dad has those internal Ring cameras, and I asked to see the videos from that day, but he told me they were already deleted or overwritten. But I would really like to see it in person for closure. Overall, I'm sorry for the storm this caused on here, but I decided to update just because I keep seeing alerts and messages from people. Maybe somebody will find this helpful. Top comments. Viola Dill. I'm glad that your sisters sorted you out, but remember that this has disproportionately affected them and your fiancé. Even if you weren't intentionally blind, you do need to cool it with complaining about how this is unfair to you. User Nosy Reader 96 comments, I really hate that he says his fiancé isn't super political, as if being racist is political. It's not. Being racist just makes you an asshole. User Hanano Bria comments, or how standing up to racism is equivalent to taking a political stance. Further comment from Savage Fertile 23. It's only politics to people whose lives aren't affected. In the end, I'm glad OP learned, and I hope he knows that by him choosing his fiancé over his mom, his relationship with his sisters will only continue to improve. It does suck finding out you're the golden child, and that you essentially were given favored treatment and never realized that, and that your siblings resent you for it, but at least he didn't lean into it and actively weaponize that against his siblings. I will say, though, that it is still just a wild thing that your first reaction to finding out that your mom may have been racist to your fiancé is, what if my fiancé is having a mental episode? That is like in the top 5 things you should not say in a situation like this. And as a closing note, you should really work on the me mentality, because you just found out that your sisters were told that if they were with a black man, they would be lesser to other men. And on top of that, had to watch you be treated as the golden child. And then additionally, your fiancé was also the victim of some extremely racist remarks from your mother. And you're still just talking about how this is making you feel. If anything is going to jeopardize your relationship with your sisters, it's going to be that. My biggest recommendation is just to listen to your fiancé about the experiences that she goes through. And not to just simply chalk them off as being a mental episode. Good God. Your mother and father planned this, by the way, if that wasn't obvious to you. Like, your mom forgot something and your dad took you out of the house, while she let your fiancé know exactly what was going to happen. Your father also being in on it is why the footage is unrecoverable, because they planned this. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for not sharing my dashcam footage? I, 37 male, was driving on the highway a few weeks ago with 2 of my buddies when another driver, 22 female, merged into my lane without enough space. I ended up rear-ending her. My car has front-end damage and I'm still waiting to see if it's totaled. Her car spun out, hit the barrier, and was totaled, but thankfully she wasn't hurt. Police arrived and determined she was at fault for an unsafe lane change and wrote her a ticket. She only got her license about 2 weeks ago. I have dashcam footage of the incident. She saw it at the scene and immediately started demanding I show it to her. I refused since fault was already determined and wanted insurance to handle it. Her dad arrived later and also told her to stop making a scene about it and accept that she's a new driver and messed up, and maybe not ready. Her insurance has accepted fault. Since then, she's been texting me repeatedly and even called me and was upset at me. I don't think I'm obligated to share it when everything is already settled, and I've always been told not to share more than necessary, even though it would still be clearly her doing an unsafe lane change. So that's the body of the post. Now, Am I the Asshole has this little insertion point that gets put in the comments that you explain why you think you might be the asshole. Normally, there's no new information added, so it's not really worth it for me to include it. However, in this case, OP just happened to leave this out of the post. I refuse to share dashcam footage with a driver I had an accident with. This might make me an asshole, as I feel it could result in delaying things and getting me in trouble as well, as I was testing my car and going twice the speed limit when she started changing lanes. OP was on the highway. Throughout the continental United States, that ranges from 60 miles an hour to 85 miles an hour, roughly 100 kilometers to 130 kilometers an hour. OP admitted that he was going twice the speed limit, which the dashcam would have caught. On the low end, he was going 120 miles an hour. On the upper end, 150 plus. If you've been driving for 2 weeks and you're just assuming that everyone's going to be at least following the speed limit within reason, like maybe going 5 or 10 over on the highway, and you see a car is a pretty good length behind you and you begin to merge, only to find out they're going twice the speed limit, yeah, no wonder why she spun out and hit the barrier. You were a fucking missile on the highway. That dashcam could have gotten you prison time. Oh, but don't worry. OP is totally in the clear here. I mean, I could share it with her, but it wouldn't change the outcome as my insurance already accepted. So I don't see how it helps her, and might make her feel worse. Don't worry guys, OP's withholding the dashcam footage because it might make her feel worse. You know, the footage that shows him going twice the speed limit and just fucking rear-ending her like a goddamn missile and sending her flying into a guardrail? Yeah, that might make her feel worse to see the fact that you were actually just the reckless driver, and her, as a new driver, wasn't actually responsible for the accident. You screwed her over, and I hope that every single night that you go to bed right before you fall asleep, you're just hit with the sudden wave of guilt where you realize what you've done, and you have to try to toss and turn all night, dealing with this level of guilt, knowing that you fucked over this new driver because you were too selfish to admit that you were testing your car on the highway, going twice the speed, and caused an accident. I hope that keeps you up at night indefinitely. Crossposted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for pushing my brother's wife to give up her burial plot spot for our mom? Me, 34 female, brother, 40 male, and his wife, 37 female, bought a family plot 4 years ago after our dad died suddenly. It's a 4-person plot in a cemetery near where both my brother and sister-in-law and their 2 kids live. Our mom, 69 female, has had some health scares recently, and it's put her in a headspace where she's thinking about this stuff. At a family dinner, she mentioned she'd like to be buried near her son. My mom and dad divorced decades ago. They hadn't spoken in like 2 years prior to my dad passing for some context on that. She asked if there was any way to be added to my brother's plot, and said my brother's wife could be buried either nearby or with her family. My brother's wife said no immediately. Not, let me think about it. Not, let's look into options. Just no. That's her spot, and she's not giving it up. My mom got quiet and hasn't brought it up since, but I can tell it's bothering her a lot. She's dealing with her own mortality right now and got shut down in about 10 seconds over a where she'll be laid to rest. I texted my brother's wife afterward, saying I thought she could have handled it with a little more grace, given what our mom is going through, and that it wouldn't kill her to at least explore other arrangements like buying an additional plot or seeing if my mom could go on the end. She said I was being unfair asking her to give up something she and my brother planned for themselves and their kids. I'll be the first to admit I haven't looked into burial plots or anything like that myself, but Mom being with my brother is such a simple thing in my mind. I don't get what the issue is, especially when they could just look at adding another plot to what they already have. My brother is being annoyed and staying out of it and just says it's between the two of you. I think he wants my mom to be in the same area, but my brother's wife is being needlessly rigid over the whole thing. It's not like our mom is dying tomorrow. She's just scared and wanted reassurance. Am I the asshole for wanting this for my mom? So after your father died, your brother bought a 4-person plot so that way he could be with his wife when he was laid to rest. And your mom asked if his wife would be okay with not being buried next to him, and instead if she'd be okay with being buried somewhere else, not next to her husband. I understand that grief and the impending dread of your own mortality will kind of make you think and say some dumb things, but asking your sister-in-law or your daughter-in-law to give up her resting place next to her husband for you is one hell of an ask. Like, she was just asked to not be laid to rest with her husband and kids. and have her place be taken by her mother-in-law, followed up with the insinuation that she should be buried with her family, as if her husband and children aren't her family. Also, not a fan of the brother's response either. This is between you two. No, this is you and your wife and your mother. You should be standing by your wife and not stepping aside on it because, buddy, what are you doing? That's your wife. User Bad Bandit 1970 went and collected some of OP's comments. Some of OP's comments! She's not only entitled as fuck, she's delusional as fuck. More or less is how the conversation went. Yes, my mom did say my sister-in-law could consider a plot next to her family, her parents in particular, but it came from a place of wanting what is best for all. Someone comments, sister-in-law's family is her husband and children. And how is this best for all? It's best for OP's mom. Sorry, but to be clear, I was party to the conversation and only felt it was okay to bring it up again over text my sister-in-law because I was there when she quickly dismissed the idea. Some feelings are left unacted upon. In fairness, I think some nuance is missing. My mom has been divorced / without a partner for the better part of the last 20 years. My dad was always verbally abusive and my mom gave up on dating after they ended things. I only pointed out because my mom is asking to be close to her son, and given the context, this is why I had a soft spot for her when she brought it up. I'm sorry that OP's mom suffered abuse, but it does not change the fact that a question was still asked and answered. Also, would her mother be reimbursing her brother and sister-in-law for the plot, or are they just expected to hand it over free of charge? Also, my brother is being very hands-off on this, even though I've called to talk to him about it 4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks since it was brought up, and him being unhelpful isn't making the situation any better. OP's called her brother 4 to 5 times in 2 weeks to discuss the situation. To be honest, I'd have blocked her ass. On my phone and across social media. I'm only trying to mediate a solution between my mom and brother / sister-in-law. I can admit that I pushed my sister-in-law a bit to at least think about it without shutting down my mom so fast, but that's it. No one asked you to mediate, OP. There is no situation. Mother-in-law asked, sister-in-law answered. End of story. Honestly, I totally forgot that OP was a daughter and not another brother. I was kind of wondering why that brother had the favorites. And now it's just obvious that that's a boy mom and she wants to be buried next to her son, replacing his wife. And not her daughter. Boy, oh boy, is that telling. Crossbow said from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for not letting my granddaughter's friend get off the bike and walk? My granddaughter, 5 female, had her friend, also 5 female, over today, and they wanted to go on a bike ride. So my daughter and I took them around the block. Granddaughter rode her new bike while her friend rode her old one, which is more suitable for toddlers than kindergartners. Granddaughter calls it a baby bike. Granddaughter likes to ride really fast on her new bike. Friend kept trying to go fast but had trouble because the old bike isn't made for that. My daughter kept up with granddaughter as she sped up ahead while I stayed with friend as she fell behind. Friend eventually slowed down so much we lost sight of daughter and granddaughter. At this point, friend wouldn't stop complaining about being tired and her legs hurting and asked if she could stop riding and walk. I told her no because we still had to get back to the house. She kept whining about wanting to get off the bike and walk, but I held my ground and told her she could get off the bike when we reached the house. Friend complained the whole time until we finally met up with daughter and granddaughter at the house. When I let friend get off the bike, she complained more about her legs hurting and how I wouldn't let her walk. When I explained the situation, daughter says she thinks I could have handled it better, but we didn't want to argue, so just went inside, and the kids forgot about the ordeal in 5 seconds. Too long didn't read, my granddaughter's friend got tired and fell behind during a bike ride, and I wouldn't let her get off and walk. Now I feel guilty about letting a small child suffer when I have the option not to. Why? Like, actually, why did you go this course of action? What benefit was there? What ground was there to hold? The child was in pain and wanted to walk her bike the rest of the way there. Probably roughly at the same pace. or you could have assisted or something. But instead, no, you made them push forward in pain. Why? I went through OP's comments, and the closest explanation I could find is the fact that the 5-year-old might dawdle if she's let off her bike. So you put a child through pain because if they got off the bike that was hurting them, they might just take more additional time. OP also seems convinced the child will not remember this. They will. They're 5. They are fully capable of forming memories right now, and this is definitely going to be one of them. I can only just assume that you dislike this child because they were in pain and wanted off their bike. But you showed them. You held your ground and kept that 5-year-old miserable. Like, I'm left with just asking the same thing over and over again. Why? Cross posted from r/wedding. It happened to me. I think I need to bump someone from my wedding party. I've seen the posts about having to navigate removing wedding party members and was really confident in our choices until this past weekend. This past weekend was my bachelorette party. We all met up for a weekend getaway Friday night through Sunday morning. Overall, it was an amazing trip and I had such an excellent time. However, Thursday evening, 24 hours before everyone was due to arrive, one of my wedding party members messaged me that they were no longer able to come. Late 30s female. I am also a late 30s female. Normally, I'm a pretty forgiving and understanding person. Things in life happen. She said she couldn't come because she could no longer afford to make the 3-hour trip because she was served an eviction notice at the beginning of June and hadn't made enough money to afford the trip. She does not have a working vehicle and would have needed to rent a car. She had originally had a ride arranged, but the person who she was going to get a ride from was no longer speaking to her. Life is hard and expensive right now for everyone, I get it. It was definitely financially responsible for her to stay home. But what's really grinding my gears is that she's known about this since the beginning of June and waited until 24 hours before to back out. When I expressed my disappointment in her letting me know so last minute, she went on about how hard and unfair life is for her. I empathize with why she couldn't make it, just disappointed in her lack of planning. A week ago, there was a transportation snafu and we had to make some alternative arrangements, and I needed a small contribution, less than $40 per person, from each attendee if they could afford it. Everyone happily chipped in because I had paid for everything else for the party up until that point. This person was the first to pay me, despite her current situation. Now, regarding the wedding. The wedding is in August. She has no expenses other than travel to the wedding location, which is 2 hours from her, and likely will not have a car in working order by then. From what I understand, the fix is expensive, and well, given everything else, she can't afford it. It's a tough situation for her, and I feel bad. I also feel bad for being like, but my wedding! I feel I've been a pretty understanding and generous bride. The only expense our wedding party has is transportation to and from our respective bachelor/bachelorette parties and the wedding. There was an optional event at my bachelorette party she had also elected to participate in and paid for that too. We've covered attire, accessories, lodging, food, and hair and makeup for the wedding. I asked her when she texted me Thursday if she was going to be able to make the wedding, and she said, "Yes, I seriously wouldn't miss that." I'm having a hard time believing her right now, given how precarious her financial situation is. I need to get it figured out though, so I can have things ordered for a backup person. As much as I want her there, I can't help but have a nagging feeling in the back of my head that she will flake. She clearly has more important responsibilities at play, which I understand. My fiancé suggested posing it as a question to give her the choice to step away, but knowing her the way I do, she doesn't have the self-awareness to make that kind of responsible decision. If she chose to step down and potentially come as a guest, no hard feelings. But the thought of her committing to this and then calling me Thursday before my wedding to tell me she's not coming has my stomach in absolute knots. So I come seeking advice on how to navigate this situation. She's a cousin and the only family member I have in my wedding party because of some pretty dysfunctional dynamics. I know just taking it away from her will crush her and piss her off, but the unreliability is killing me. Any advice? Is it really flaking if you're not able to attend a wedding because you're currently dealing with an eviction notice? I mean, I would have thought that OP would have been a more caring and understanding person after all they repeated it a couple times. But nope, if life gets in the way and you're unable to attend because you're dealing with an eviction notice and your car is currently not able to function and you can't afford to get a rental and your previous transportation bailed on you, it makes you a flake for having life get in the way. It sounds like originally she thought she could juggle everything that was on her plate. The car, having transportation, dealing with the eviction notice, being part of the wedding party. But turns out it was too much. And she's being forced to take a step back. Like, I understand it sucks not having your wedding party put together, and you've already kind of made a few deposits, but, like, I gotta be real with you, an eviction notice is a bit more important than being part of the wedding party. The things that OP's cousin is dealing with are all necessities, things that are part of life. All of them except for the wedding party, which is the one thing that she can actually take off her plate to make her life a bit easier. I don't know. As let's see, how did you put it? A pretty forgiving and understanding person, I think this is a reasonable approach to life. Cross-posted from r/drew off my chest. I pretended to be asleep while my roommate was having an asthma attack. I was already having issues sleeping that night. I had an iced coffee and iced tea earlier that day. Did not know green tea had caffeine. But on top of that, my college roommate and her boyfriend argue every damn night about the same thing. Get off Snapchat. Where are you going and why? Who are you texting? Etc. I think they cheat on each other or one on the other more often, but I couldn't give a damn because it's always a yelling match at like 11 p.m. It's 9 p.m. right now, and that's exactly what they're doing too. Right now, in this very moment. One night, he must have worked her up to the point she was crying on and off and talking about how she couldn't breathe right. Next thing you know, she's crying and coughing, running out of the room into the bathroom for water. See, I thought her and her boyfriend would leave to go to the ED, but no. The damn paramedics came all the way here to our suite and into the room. I had to lay dead still because I didn't want to be a part of it. That had nothing to do with me, so why should I get up? Rereading this sounds mean as shit, but like I said, it had nothing to do with me, so yada yada. Maybe you shouldn't smoke if you have asthma and continue to sleep in bed with the same man with the guy you think might be cheating on you, IDK. And maybe you shouldn't leave food crumbs and dirty clothes in the bathroom, dirty bitch. What the fuck? What the fuck? Dude, I hate food crumbs too, but like, using that and calling them a dirty bitch because they had an asthma attack while you played dead while the paramedics were around you? Okay, for starters, everyone knew that you weren't asleep and just faking it. I mean, seriously, you had paramedics in and out of your house and you were in the shared space and you didn't wake up? Yeah, no, they knew that you were fake sleeping. Let's be real here. Dude, if you are this miserable having her as a roommate, just move out. This is an insane level of animosity towards another human that could have died right then and there. Asthma attacks aren't a joke. I mean, hell, commenter, something to say now. People die from asthma attacks. It can happen to anyone, including you or someone you love. Your roommate may be a dirty bitch, but so is karma. Opie responds, I guess I did get karma when I had to deal with 2 mice that was running around our suite. In other comments, OP blames them having mice on her roommate's messiness, and I just want to add, mice will appear even if you're the cleanest person on the planet. All they care about is a warm space that they can burrow in, and the fact that your pantry is an easy access to food is just a massive win. Another commenter, Squiggity Mushroom, if her boyfriend was there, it doesn't matter, but you sound so hateful that I don't know if you would have helped her if he wasn't there. OP responds, she's never had an asthma attack any other time he wasn't there. That does not address the topic of conversation. Would you have helped your roommate if they had an asthma attack and it was just you two? Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it'll never happen. Does it suck that the roommate and her boyfriend are fighting all the time? Very much so. Is it aggravating that she's messy, leaves food crumbs places, and doesn't pick up her clothes? Yeah, very much so. Does that justify her having an asthma attack and potentially dying? No. I know that OP didn't outright say, I hope my roommate dies from their asthma attack, but to follow up, yeah, they had to get paramedics involved. Anyways, maybe you shouldn't be such a dirty bitch. That's how that comes across. That is the energy you are projecting outward into this world. Especially with how you say, the damn paramedics. Honestly, if she bothers you this much, just find a new roommate. You don't have to be roommates with her. So, welcome to the outro. I learned the hard way that yes, in fact, God can't stop me when I have a paintbrush. Or more of, my foot can potentially, maybe, kick a paint can that's still mostly full over. And, well, the tarps were laid down. Only to find out they didn't have a plastic lining and they were just regular tarps. At least I found out my carpet cleaner's really good at its job. But, now I'm down a paint can. And my carpet cleaner's green. It previously was not. Gamer subs, use code KEYZ at checkout, 10% off with your purchases. I'm gonna go rethink my choices. And hopefully pick up on the painting tomorrow.